Does voter fraud exist?
I don't know for certain.
Are you an expert in voter fraud?
No, I'm not.
Do you believe Facebook did enough to prevent Trump's efforts to delegitimize the election result? If so, why have you reached that conclusion?
But we also took the unprecedented step of putting the Voter Information Center at the top of Facebook and Instagram for everyone in the US that showed them reliable information about the election.
How many times have you blocked Democratic candidates for office? How many times have you blocked Republican office holders? How many times have you blocked Democratic office holders? Twitter has repeatedly refused to answer that question with specific hard data. Will you commit in this hearing right now to answer those questions in writing?
That's exactly what we're pushing for as we think about building upon 230.
Is that a yes that you will answer those questions in writing?
Transparency, not just of outcomes, but also our process as well.
Is that a yes that you will answer those questions in writing?
We'll certainly look into it and see what we can do.
And actually answer them and not give lawyerly doublespeak about why you're not going to give specifics. Answer them. Will you commit to this committee that you will answer those questions?
We're going to work to answering broader transparency around outcomes.
All right, that's a no. Mr. Zuckerberg, how about you? Will you commit that Facebook will answer those specific questions, cataloging the number of instances in which Democrats in 16, 18, and 20 have been silenced versus the number of instances in which Republicans have been silenced on Facebook?
Senator, I'm not sure if we have that data available, but I will follow up with you or your team.
How is Twitter's capacity to identify a bot as opposed to a real customer?
Sometimes it may look like a bot, but it's actually a human that is organized with other humans for a particular agenda. So it is challenging. We are doing work right now to better identify bots on our service.
Let me just interject, Mr. Dorsey, real quick. As a baseline proposition, do you agree that a bot does not deserve a voice on your platform, that it should be actual people and organizations?
I don't agree with that as a high level. I think we should be labeling bots so that people have greater context for what they're interacting with.
Fair enough.
There are plenty of bots on our service that provide a valuable function, and I wouldn't want to take that away.
Mr. Zuckerberg, let me just ask you directly, under oath now, does Facebook coordinate its content moderation policies or efforts in any way with Google or Twitter?
Senator, let me be clear about this. We do coordinate on and share signals on security-related topics. So, for example, if there is signal around a terrorist attack or around child exploitation imagery or around a foreign government creating an influence operation, that is an area where the companies do share signals about what they see. But I think it's important to be very clear that that is distinct from the content moderation policies that we or the other companies have, where once we share intelligence or signals between the companies, each company makes its own assessment of the right way to address and deal with that information.
Well, I'm talking about content moderation. I'm talking about individuals, websites, hashtags, phrases to ban. Is it your testimony that you do not communicate with Twitter or Google about content moderation, about individuals, websites, phrases, hashtags to ban? Just yes or no. Do you communicate with Twitter or Google about coordinating your policies in this way?
Senator, we do not coordinate our policies.
Okay, would you commit to a policy where actual people could review these ads instead of just being hit with algorithm review?
Senator, we do have review and verification of political advertisers before they can advertise.
Okay, so does every ad go through a human being? Like
Senator,
the TVs do?
I think our policy is that we want to verify the authenticity of anyone who's doing political or social issue advertising. And I think it's worth noting that our people reviewers are not in all cases always more accurate than the technical systems.
So are
I think
you
that there
saying
some
a
things
human
where-
being reviews every ad? It's just really yes or no, or I don't know.
Senator, I don't know.
Okay.
On November 7, President Trump tweeted this: "I won this election by a lot." End quote. That's obviously not true. President Trump lost the election. The warning label that Twitter has applied to the tweet says, and I quote, "Official sources may not have called the race when this was tweeted," end quote. Now, here's the question. Does that label do enough to prevent the tweet's harms when the tweet is still visible and is not accurate?
I believe it's really important that we show people a broader context, and that is the intention of the label. It is not just text below a tweet. It is a link to connect to a much larger conversation and news articles across the spectrum.
Mr. Zuckerberg, do you believe your product can be addictive?
Senator, we certainly do not design the product in that way. We design the product to be as useful and meaningful as
That's
possible.
not my
We take
question.
steps.
My question is that there seems to be an ample body of growing medical evidence that social media sites have an addictive nature to them. Do you agree with that?
Senator, I don't think the research has been conclusive, but it is an area that we care about and study. We certainly do not want our products to be addictive. We want people to use them because they are meaningful.
Do you,
And we take steps to make sure that this is the case. So, for example, we don't give the team that's running Newsfeed a goal around how much time people spend on our products, which goes counter to a lot of the memes and misinformation out there around how we operate. But my goal is to help people connect and find content and interactions that are going to be meaningful to them on our service. And our view is that if that's what we deliver over the long term and people find the services useful, then they'll use them more. But I don't think that companies should be optimizing to just encourage people to spend as much time as possible on them.
should we leave it up to the industry to come up with best business practices in terms of how to moderate content?
I think that's best. I think we need to align around the problem that we're trying to solve. And there are many solutions to solving those problems, but I think we also have to focus our efforts on what is going to have the greatest impact. And we believe that the greatest impact is going to be found in how we deal with algorithms, how we use those algorithms, because they are responsible for showing us what we see or what we don't see. And there needs to be more choice in their use.
What are both of you prepared to do regarding Donald Trump's use of your platforms after he stops being president? Will he still be deemed newsworthy, and will he still get to use your platforms to spread his misinformation?
There are a small number of policies where we have exceptions for politicians under the principle that people should be able to hear what their elected officials are saying and candidates for office. But by and large, the vast majority of our policies have no newsworthiness or political exception. So if the president or anyone else is spreading hate speech or inciting violence or posting content that delegitimizes the election or valid forms of voting, those will receive the same treatment as anyone else saying those things.
For global leaders, we do make exceptions in terms of whether if a tweet violates our terms of service, we leave it up, but we leave it up behind an interstitial, and people are not allowed to share that more broadly. So a lot of the sharing is disabled, with the exception of quoting it so that you can add your own conversation on top of it. So if an account suddenly is not a world leader anymore, that particular policy goes away.